Kick off summer with Memorial Day savings at Lowe's. Right now, get 5 Scott's Naturescapes 1.5 cubic foot mulch bags for just $10. Plus, get up to 40% off select major appliances and save an extra $50 on every $500 you spend on select major appliances $396 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/28. Mulch offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Blog Talk Radio.
The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network. The Women of Golf show is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips magazine. iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, with insightful reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, helping you improve your game from tee to green. Good morning. Welcome to the Women of Golf, the #1 women's golf show around the world, with hosts Ted Odorico and Cindy Miller. Join them as they interview some of the best players from the Epson, LPGA, and Legends Tour, and so many others, helping to elevate women's golf. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Ted and Cindy.
All right, good morning, everybody, and once again, welcome to the Women of Golf show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside, of course, each and every week is none other than Legends Tour player and LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts here on the Women of Golf. Good morning, Cindy. Oh, well, hopefully Cindy's joining us. She was here.
I'm unmuted now. I'm fine.
Okay. Oh, well, I'm not even going to go there because I've done that a few times myself. We've got a great show. What a nice way to start. We've got a great show for everybody this morning. We're going to be welcoming back for the third time a very special guest this morning who happened to just win last weekend's event or last week's event on the Epson Tour, and we'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But just remind everybody, of course, we are live every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the BlogTalk.com radio. Glad to have everybody join us, and we're looking forward to today's show. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest, and then we'll bring her on. Our special guest this morning is Savannah Vilaubi. She is an LPGA and Epson Tour player. Her journey in golf began at the ripe young age of 8, and leading her to turn professional in 2016. Some notable highlights. She won the 2021 Colorado Women's Open, as well as 5 Cactus Tour events. Some other accolades include the 2016 Texas Women's Open. And more recently, last season in 2023, she won her first Epson Tour event, the Copper Rock Championship. And as I mentioned last week, she won the 2024 Otter Creek Championship, making that her second Epson Tour win. Lots of other good stuff about this young lady. And as I mentioned, she's been with us 3 times. This is her third appearance back on the show. So, Cindy, let's welcome our latest winner from Epson and repeat guest, Savannah Vilaubi.
Good morning,
Hello.
dear.
Hi, thank you so much for the warm intro. It's so good to be joining you guys again.
Are you getting sick of us?
Oh, not even a little bit. I think the more often we talk, the better my career is. So I think it's a win-win.
What a smart girl you are.
Sometimes I can do the math.
Ed, you want to start?
Fantastic. Yeah, I will. And congratulations. Let me just point out, Cindy, we were Savannah and I were talking about this before we went live, and just before you had chimed in. As I mentioned, this is her third appearance. She was with us May 9th last year, which was just after she won Copper Rock. And then we think it was back in 2021, around the time in June, when she secured the victory at the Colorado Women's Open. So she comes back, as she said, she comes back here after winning an event. So I think we're going to have to make sure that she just keeps coming back because I think, as she said, it's good for her career. So congratulations, obviously, Savannah, from both of us. A job well done. And you actually, and we're going to get into some of the specifics, but you actually came close to actually getting into a playoff, correct?
Oh yes, we were in a playoff. Yeah, it was a 2-hole playoff again. So
that's right.
Kind of an echo of the Copper Rock event last year.
Which always makes it fun and interesting, right?
Yeah, it does. You know, you'd hope to win a tournament outright, and that is definitely a goal. But just the playoffs, I seem to have a knack for that. Obviously, last year with Copper Rock, it took 2 holes. This year, I had qualified for the U.S. Women's Open, and at my qualifying site, needed to enter a playoff with one other player for the final spot, and was able to pull that one off too. And then we have Sunday. So just 2 days ago, I'm coming up on 18 during the regular play, and realized wow, okay, I think we can do this again. So. Anyway, the playoffs, I don't know. I seem to be chasing them rather.
Well, you know what? I think it's good though. I think it's good to get in there and continue testing yourself. Obviously it's nice to win outright all the time. But you know what? Winning on the other end of a playoff is just as sweet. The victory is just as sweet. I want to ask you, and I found this really interesting. I was going through the different rounds that you played. You played 3 rounds in this event. Round 1, you had a number of birdies, no bogeys or anything else. Round 2, you had a bunch of birdies, a couple of bogeys. And round 3, obviously, things tightened up a little bit. You had 3 bogeys and 4 birdies. But this is what really caught my eye, and I'm wondering if maybe you could share. I was looking at some of the specific statistics, and you're pretty decent. You can hit a pretty long ball. But what was funny was your driving distance for round 2 and round 3 was 275 in round 2, and round 3 was 281. So you stepped it up, averaging 270. What I found really interesting, though, is in your first round, your driving distance was about 255, which is about 20 yards shorter. Was that due to conditions? Was it windy at the event? Because that's a big difference. A few yard difference is one thing, but your average distance was 255 in round 1. What was going on in round 1, and what caused you to sort of really step it up or ramp it up in the other 2 rounds?
That's a really good observation there. And round 1, when we started off, we had some rain that was coming in and out, and so a few of those tee shots, I'm standing over the ball and just get this torrential rain that just kind of comes through for a few minutes, just long enough for all of us to hit a tee shot. We get up there, it's bright and sunny, but it's oh, okay, it looks like my ball just went 20 yards less, for this one. But so part of that was conditions. Part of that, I really love teeing it up. I still have those kind of first tee jitters, if you will. But honestly, I think I had more adrenaline in the second and third rounds. I caught that a few times with some wedges that I hit into greens that went a little farther than I would have liked them to. And I truly think it was just kind of down to adrenaline on the last couple of rounds.
Yeah, and I figured there was probably some weather pattern in there as well that would attribute to that. But here's what's really interesting too. On the flip side of that, your greens in regulation is sort of the opposite. Round 1, you had 15 out of 18. In round 2, you had 11 out of 18. And round 3, you had 10 out of 18. So it seemed to your driving went up as the rounds went on, and your greens and reg kind of went down as again, is that just as you became closer to the leaderboards and that sort of thing? Does that affect you at this point? You've been playing for a number of years now, so you obviously are well grounded in your game. But does that still affect you sometimes? Obviously, conditions, weather-wise, obviously are going to affect any player. But do you still, like you said, kind of get the first tee jitters and things? Does that also affect you in other parts of your game?
Sure. To the extent that you always want to play well. You want to play well when it matters. You want to hit the good shot. And, I think it just kind of carried on. And especially when I knew that I was playing well and that you're in contention, it matters more for a longer period of time, I guess, while you're on the golf course. And just golf isn't perfect. My swing wasn't perfect. The tendency is to just get a little out of sync, maybe get a little quick with the swing. So this whole year I've been working on having a very simple trigger to start my swing and just staying committed without trying to guide the ball. And sometimes I fall short of that, and I default to guiding the shot a little bit. So sometimes for me it looks like holding the face open with the iron, and that doesn't really save anybody if you're just trying to play your best golf and just commit to the shot. So, it ends up in missed greens, but luckily the short game was there this whole week. It was kind of a big trust fall on the putter, if you will. And, so you don't need to play perfect golf to win. You just have to try to hit the best quality shot you can. And I was luckily able to rely on the putter.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well said. Cindy, go ahead.
So when you say that you can't hit it perfect all the time, and she who misses it best without getting ticked off wins.
That's a good one.
Yeah, well, that took me a long time to learn. Trust me. What do you tell yourself to try to fire yourself up and not get depressed when you miss shots?
So I've been working on, my relationship with God. I'm very faith-filled, and whenever I get a little too bogged down about anything, I just have to zoom out. I go to the Father, and I just say, I've already won. Like, Jesus died for us. I have already won. So it's talking to myself in a place that convinces me or reminds me, like, hey, you're fighting from a place of victory. Your process is really good still. If you're making mistakes because you're abandoning your process in the golf shot, then look at that. But really, I just try to speak to myself from a place of, just have patience. You've already won the big war. Let's just really try to be diligent in our process, and that's pretty much it.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So in your heart that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I say that. So when I played, I was like, all right, Lord, if you don't want me to be here, you got to close the door because I'm going to walk through half open doors. So you got to slam it in my face because I'm going through. Is that kind of, are you like a control freak like me, or are you a little nicer?
No, definitely. There's been some prayers where it's more of a demand, So it's not so much a request, but like a do or die thing. So I mean, I've definitely said that prayer too. Like, hey, if I'm not supposed to be doing this, close the door. A couple weeks ago at the U.S. Open, obviously shooting an opening round of 88 on a par 70. That was one of those times. It's like, is this the slam door in my face? Like, should I walk away from this? But there's like a little whisper. I don't know if it's our human tendency. Sometimes it's hard to know if it's like our human will to survive and to be correct in the career we chose to pursue, or if it's God's little whisper, like the Spirit saying, hey, keep going. But, I was willing to choose to continue with this. And, to your point, I knew that I was doing the right things with my process. And journaling after golf rounds, really identifying what I needed to improve in my physical golf game, seeing what my mental kind of tendencies were, and just going full in. I work with two sports psychologists, Bo Watson and Shannon Chesky, and they are, they're spiritual warriors, and they have been tremendous in coaching me on the mental side of the game. And we committed to going full in with this, with my approach about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. And I was going to really scrutinize my mental game and my approach. And we were going to pinpoint where I needed to improve in my game, because physically I had the tools. Like, everybody is good at this level, and all that separates you is your mental game and your belief. But your belief in yourself I think, correlated to how diligent you are in your process, like how you can keep your word to yourself when you say you're going to do something and then follow up with it. So I just kind of made new habits over the last several weeks here, and it culminated into this win.
It is so, so true. That is so, because everybody is so good. I mean, everybody is so good, and everybody can hit the ball, and you have to really want to do this. And if you're a little bit, well, I don't know, I mean, it's like, no, this is not going to happen. You have to be committed and want to do this. So good for you. Good for you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I mean, yeah.
It takes
That's
a lot of patience and obedience, I guess. And, when you're tired and you don't want to journal, or when you're just so irritated on a round and you think, what good is it to write about it? It's like, no, there's still some good and still some learning that can happen.
Well, and that's, it's like we teach a lot of kids. So my husband and I both played on tour. Alan played for 15 years, and he's way better than me. I only played for 3. But we teach so many kids who don't understand what it takes. And they just, and the parents are all trophy hunting. And it's so sad because it just takes such a commitment. And you got to fall in love with the fight.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Right? What would you tell somebody?
Precisely that. Like, people have told me, my coaches have told me, like, hey, you can't just, to your point, you can't just chase trophies. Yes, have a goal to win because, what are you there for? But you have to fall in love with the process. And I heard that from many people across genres, so it's not just golf, but in everything you do, you got to love the process. But I didn't understand that. I was so sick and tired of trying to love the process and still coming up short. I'm like, so I'm going to love the process, fall in love with everything, work really hard to miss the cut by one again. It's like you have these conversations that happen that, try to convince you that the process is not what you need to focus on. But I argue that for kids growing up in this, like, you really do just have to make learning something your objective, not reacting to something that didn't go well, because that's what I was doing. You can't learn when you're angry because you want a result so bad to not be the case because it's making you angry. You feel less than in your game. You have to flip the switch and tap into something where you are able to learn now. And that was really, really a big step for me too. So that's what I would advocate for, and anybody coming up in the game, especially young kids. Just try to learn rather than be angry, because if you can learn and correct, you can fix it so you won't be angry the next time.
Well, I think also, and be humble and be honest with yourself. Like, what were you thinking? Well, the ball went to the right. Okay, well, I had a little girl the other day. I hate my 6-iron. I go, well, it doesn't like you either, I said, well, why don't you get a 6 hybrid? Oh, well, I don't have a job. I said, well, why don't you get a job? Well, I'm only 13. I said, well, can't you babysit? And she goes, well, I don't like kids. I go, well, I don't care. And her mother's sitting there. I said, well, how bad do you hate your 6-iron? I'm like, stop whining and blaming everything else. I mean, those are the lessons.
Yeah.
And
there is solution.
Don't be an entitled child. Stop it.
Yeah, seriously. Golf will not let you do that. It will humble you, or the people around you will, but one way or the other, golf does not tolerate entitlement.
Right. And I said, where's your stats from the 90 you just shot? Oh. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to do those. Well, what happened? Right. I said, we got to look in the mirror. And again, you know, when I messed up, I used to play golf with Joanne Carner all the time because I didn't have any place to stay when I got my LPGA Tour card. So I whatever, it's a long story, but I lived in her Airstream trailer while she stayed in her, you know, condo on the beach. And I worked in the pro shop at Palm Beach National in the morning, and she would beat me every afternoon playing 9 holes at her golf course, and then I worked as a waitress. That's what I paid the rent, because I paid her rent in this camper with these cockroaches that were 12 inches long. So, again, but you do got to do. And then I would say, you know, how do you hit the shot and how do you hit that shot? So I was so hungry and so teachable because I wanted to learn from the best in the world. And that's what you got to do rather than avoid the truth. You got to. And then I still was, but again, you got to ask those questions and look in the mirror.
Yeah. You
so
absolutely. Yeah, you can you can lie to other people, but you can't lie to yourself. So that you definitely have to look in the mirror and understand, like, hey, if I miss this 6 iron, okay, what was my mentality before I hit it? Oh, well, I hate this club. Well, you're already setting yourself up for failure. So now you can diagnose it as like a mental issue, and then you work your way from there. So I completely agree with you there, Cindy.
What's the hardest lesson you've had to learn to this point?
To let go of a bad shot. Man, I was really good at hating myself and hating the result, like hating the bad shot. And, the biggest lesson was, I guess, to not confuse, and even still, it's a work in progress, but not to confuse your like self-value with the results on the golf course. And the hardest part about that is when you're in a slump and you don't have any good results to speak for. And, unfortunately, there are so many things that go into shooting a certain score, but in the end, there are no pictures on the scorecard. And so the number is all that matters. When it comes down to it, the number is all that matters. And so the hardest part for me was to talk myself up in a way that I wasn't just a number, because the number is all that matters. And therefore, I only need to be a certain number. But I think the biggest lesson was removing myself from that and trying to learn early, trying to learn and observe my successful shots, my poor shots very early, so that I didn't become a number. Like, you have to choose where you're going to put your attention, and mine I had to learn how to shift it to being a student, I guess. I think that's ultimately it.
Agree. My hubby has a saying, I'm not what I shoot.
You should put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah. All right, Ted, we'll let's talk now.
Well, thank you. I'm still in a bit of shock. It's funny that you shared some of your stories, Cindy. This past weekend, I was on my way back from Atlanta, and on the highway, on the interstate, we passed one of the newer Airstream, and I hadn't seen one in a long time. I thought, wow, that's really cool. You don't see a lot of Airstream, trailers anymore. And now that I realize they're housing 12-inch cockroaches, it's no wonder they disappeared for a while. And I don't think I'll ever step foot in one ever again. Wow. In fact, I've been looking, since you mentioned that, I've been looking around the room here to make sure nothing's crawling in, but all kidding aside. You raised so many great points, Cindy, and Savannah, I know since you've been playing on tour for a while, you've had to make a lot of changes in order to evolve in your career. And I know one thing that has been very important to you is the physical aspect of keeping yourself in shape. And obviously you do it for not just golf. I mean, you do it obviously, you want to, look your best and things like that. But what does a typical day for you look like, both on and off, the tour. And what I mean by tour, obviously, is when you're in a tournament week, obviously things might have to be adjusted in order, to allow the play and practice and things like that. So what's your typical day look like when you're in a tournament? What's going on as far as, working out? How do you balance that between getting out there and making sure you're practicing and, of course, play? And then on weeks when you're not, chasing the trophy, figuratively speaking, what does a day look like for you then?
During the tournament weeks, I really focus on my diet. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned. So in working with, a coach on nutrition over the last couple of years, I was able to learn a lot from him, and I realized that I play my best when the inflammation is lowest, and that usually was achieved by like high protein, high fat diet. And so I would kind of load up on carbs maybe the night before, but during the day I feel, just the mental clarity, the acuity, it's noticeably higher when I'm on a relatively low carb, high fat, high protein diet. So so that is my priority: diet, hydration, making sure that I'm well salted. That leads me to just having a quieter mind when I'm out there. There's already enough stress and pressures, and you're trying to take in all this information when you're playing a tournament, especially when you're in contention. And I've just noticed over the last several weeks, when I've been far more diligent about my diet, that my mind is quiet, not as noisy, the thoughts aren't racing. So I keep that an absolute priority during the tournament weeks. I'm not drinking, just not even a glass of wine, like anything to keep me steady. So that is the diet approach. And then for the physical side, I really am not lifting as much this year, but I am focusing a lot on the mobility, stability, and making sure my body is warm before getting to the golf course. Something that changed for me is that I was warming up on the range, like hit a couple of shots, like, wow, my body's tight, got to loosen that up now. It's like, oh, okay, I reverse these things where I am warming up, going through an entire mobility routine, and then running a mile, stretching, rolling out, and doing some activation movements for the golf swing specifically before I get to the range. And so that's really, really helped preserve my body. And of course, when the diet is on par, then, you don't really need to kill yourself in the gym. You can maintain a nice, comfortable weight without, beating yourself up. And so long as I'm keeping the body moving and going through the mobility, the swing feels great. And that's my absolute priority. So it's keeping me injury-free this year. And that's kind of what the tournament week looks like. So outside of the tournament, when I get home, I will do a little like heavier lifting. So just doing your normal movements like squat, deadlift, have an upper body day and all that. I do like to run. So now that my husband and I live in St. George, Utah, it's a playground. Our entire backyard where we live, it's a big playground. So we go out, we do a lot of hiking. My husband is an amazing cook, so we shop at some really great places for food, for fresh ingredients. We put together great meals. And we do like to play some fun golf. So we moved to Utah for the Black Desert Resort. They have been an incredible sponsor to me this season, and they have a great wedge area that is solely for professionals and for the Utah Tech college golf teams. And I can mosey on over there, 6 a.m, work my wedges for a couple hours, and then, and then get back home. And usually I want to relax while I'm not on the road. So the first few days that I don't have a tournament, I do take them to relax, and I won't touch a club for a day or two, and then the next few days really focus on the short game and all that. But the average week at home, it's we've been exploring, we've been camping, and it's just been beautiful in Utah.
And I think it's important. You raise a really good point, several actually, but having a good balance in your life. I mean, this is your career. I mean, I don't like to call it a job, but this is your career that you've chosen. at least for this point in your life. It may change as you evolve down the road, but for now, this is your career. And unfortunately for a lot of people, and it doesn't matter whether it's golf or whether it's, other businesses and things, some people get so self-absorbed in their career that they forget about the outside parts of their lives. They don't have, even if they have a partner, spouse, what have you, they're so absorbed in their careers that they forget about just going out and having fun and just doing things together as a couple or family or what have you. And obviously that's where your faith comes in as well, is recognizing the importance that a family is. And I applaud you for that, because that's something, unfortunately, and we won't go down that rabbit hole, but that is becoming less and less in the forefront now for a lot of people. And I think this is why we're where we are in society. And I'm with you on that. I'm very strong in my faith, and I don't hide it whatsoever. So I think that, kudos to you for having the courage to do that, because I know it's not easy in this day and age. What I was going to ask you, though, when you talked about, eating healthy and doing things to, get your body prepared for when you are out on tour, I'm assuming then, would it be safe to say that you're preparing your own meals for the most part, or all of it?
For the most part, when I stay with host families, I'm able to cook. When I stay at Airbnbs, that's the goal. I stay at a lot of Residence Inn or Town Place suites that have a little kitchenette. So the more often that I can control my food, the better I feel, the better I play, and so I do try to keep that consistent. Yeah, and
I think that's important. And again, you have to, if it's something that you're really passionate about, you enjoy doing that. I mean, obviously there's some that maybe don't really, gravitate to that. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily eating unhealthy or anything, but they'll tend to, if they have to scarf down a Big Mac or something, to make do for that particular time. And that's just not, obviously, as we know, is not good. McDonald's, don't sue me. But it's important to do that. So what are some of the other things? You mentioned a few, and I noticed in some of the hobbies that you obviously enjoy singing. You play the piano, other things. What are some of your real fun hobbies that you like to do, besides some of the ones you've mentioned?
The real fun hobbies? Gosh, I mean, it would be singing. It's nothing that's formal. There's always a song in my head, so I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, there's always something playing. So I don't know, I'm usually not that quiet, but the fun hobbies. Right now we live in such a new place. We're just kind of game for doing whatever. So we'll go to farmers market together, my husband and I, and we'll see shows. We have an amphitheater that's nearby that's really, really cool. We love going to friends' houses and having game nights, cooking for each other. So we simply love to host, and we also love to go to people's houses. So we have a wonderful network of friends, and they've been family friends in Utah. So that's really how we spend our off times. If we can find a concert, that would be amazing. We love live music. My husband's trying to learn the guitar, and as he's learning guitar, I am slowly not getting better at piano because we no longer have one in our home. But we simply look for things to do. So it's not really one consistent hobby that we have. We just kind of pack up and go. If we need to pack the car in our little tent and all that and just drive until we find, some BLM land and just pull off the side of the road, we just have fun doing that. So, I guess there really isn't a consistent hobby. Right. I mean, the underlying thing, we take a Bible with us everywhere we go. And so we do have fun reading that together and asking some really funny questions. I wonder what, this apostle was thinking during this time. So, I don't know, we kind of keep it light as well, and have fun with the Bible too. So that usually works its way into pretty much everything. But we're just so open to exploring and having just different experiences with people.
I think that's so good, and I know it's very challenging and you're very blessed in that, because being here in the United States, where you get many of the players that are playing on tour with you are coming over internationally. So they might have a temporary home here or what have you, but they're, sometimes having to travel back and forth, and they don't really have family or a close-knit group of friends here. They might have friends from their tour friends, which is, again, not criticizing, but it's not the same thing as having, neighbors and things like that. So that gives you certainly advantage to have a sort of a somewhat normal home life as well, in addition to, pursuing your career. One final thing, and then we'll have to let you go because I know you probably have things that you need to do. But I mentioned earlier on that you started your professional career in 2016. Fast forward, we're in 2024 now. What's different about 2016 and 2024 as far as when you first came out, everything's kind of new. Now, you had some experience, obviously, playing other events, but essentially you really stepped it in 2016. What's different about that timeline compared to now? And I don't mean necessarily wins, but I'm just saying what's different about your approach now than what it is or what it was back in 2016?
It's just everything. I don't even know that there's very much overlap between the girl who came out in 2016 on the Epson Tour and me now. There are so many things that are different. I was definitely not where I am now with my faith. I didn't have the relationship with God that I have now, and that, as you know, just sets a tone for so many things in your life. It determines how you look at things, what you choose to say no to. And, I really just didn't say no to very much in 2016. I had a really, really successful, mini tour, Cactus Tour State Open career in during that season, and I really wasn't practicing. I don't know how I won, but I won a lot of Cactus events and won the Texas State Open, and just it was easy, and so I wasn't forced to look at what I was doing wrong. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I didn't give myself anything to build upon. So I wasn't journaling. I wasn't practicing as diligently. I wasn't watching my diet. I was drinking and just kind of going out. What was I, 22? So, I just said yes to everything. I wasn't watching my sleep. And so there was just so many things that were different. I wasn't on top of my planning. So managing my own schedule, booking the hotels and flights early enough, just none of that is what it is now. And it's just such a different person. But I learned the hard way in 2017 during my true rookie season on the Epson Tour. I had status in 16, but didn't get into any events. It's just because I participated in stage 1. But 2017, it really showed that I didn't have the right habits to stay on tour. I made 3 cuts my first season out there, and I played all but 2 events. So that, it speaks to how broken my foundation was, spiritually, physically, mentally, socially. It wasn't anything that deserved, it didn't warrant having a successful tour career. So, so many things are changed. Everything is different now.
Yeah, I think a lot of times and I know just listening to some of the other young ladies that have come on the show over the years, I think when you come in, your first year, you're kind of like Bambi. You're looking bright-eyed and looking around and ready to explore, and that's the way I would equate it is. And then as you mature and develop and in your routines and things like that, and you get to understand things better, then obviously things start to fall into place. And it's tough. People don't realize, and Cindy obviously can tell you as well, it's extremely difficult to play out on tour and to be in the weekly grind and travel and have to have all of those things. People just think, oh, you're out on the golf course having fun and playing. I wish I was doing that. Well, let's take half the people out there and have to throw them in that same circumstance, and I guarantee most of them would go home.
Yeah,
so it's a different, right? But
absolutely. even now looking back at it, and just to add one more thing, I don't know if you guys had listened to Roger Federer's commencement speech, but he was talking about how in his career, he won 80% of the time. He won 80% of his matches, and he's the best in the world. And he says, fun stat, you know how often I won by, or like how often I won the points? 54% of the time. If someone had rolled out a plan for like, hey, this is your golf career, for anyone, obviously, this is your tennis career, saying you are going to need to give every single thing you have into this game, into this sport, and we're only going to guarantee you're going to win just slightly more than half the time. It's like, what? Like, to your point, I know quite a few people who would say, nope, there's not enough security in that. I don't want that.
Right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Speech.
Go ahead, Cindy.
I did listen to his speech, and it was like, wow. Yeah. And I don't think people understand that or realize it.
No.
It was a big shock.
Yeah, it all comes down to a shot, a point, whatever it is. I mean, after 3 days of play, two girls to be separated by, not even separated by a shot. Like, I'm tied with somebody, and this has happened a lot this season or over the last year. And we tied. Like, that was our 50-50%. And I just happen to have 51% that day. It's like, that's how close it is. It's mind-boggling to me.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Cindy, any final thoughts before we let Savannah go?
Bless you, honey. Keep rolling.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been
Savannah,
a blessed career. Appreciate your guys' support.
Well, we appreciate it, and don't wait until next year to come back. Get out there and win again and come back anytime you want. We're happy to have you. But congratulations again on your win last week at Otter Creek. Continued success in the weeks to come. And, God bless and have a great rest of your season.
Amazing. Thank you, Ted and Cindy. Have a good day.
You too,
All right,
honey.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. That was our very special guest, Savannah Vilaubi, winning the 2024 Otter Creek Championship. We're going to take a quick break. We ran a little bit over on that segment, but we're happy to have a good guest like Savannah to join us this morning. We'll be right back after this message.
When it comes to golf, there are two topics that consistently come up: more distance and more energy. But hey, what if you could achieve both? Introducing Victories carbon fiber insoles, the revolutionary performance insoles designed specifically to help golfers hit longer. Using patented carbon fiber technology, VKs do more than support your feet. Many golfers see a 1 to 2 mile per hour increase in club head speed just by adding Victory insoles to their shoes. So if you want to up your game and feel better after a long day on the course, choose Victories carbon fiber insoles. Visit Victory.com, that's VKTRY.com, and use code GT20 for 20% off today. This offer is exclusive for listeners of this podcast. Again, visit Victory.com and use code GT20 for 20% off. Order today to start feeling the difference on your next round.
Welcome back. You're with Cindy and Ted here on the Women of Golf Show, and we're glad that you're joining us this morning. We just let go our very special guest this morning, Savannah Vilaubi, the latest winner on the Epson Tour. And Cindy definitely has a really solid foundation. She's built both spiritually, mentally, physically, just really has come into her own and just appreciates what life is really all about. It's not all just about grinding it out on tour. It's about finding that balance, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I had planned, and we can talk about a little bit, but I have to, I got to be honest, I got a little bit of a pet peeve. I was thinking about this after the U.S. Open, of course, that was this weekend at Pinehurst, and I didn't watch it all, but I did watch some of it, and Bryson DeChambeau, congratulations to him for putting it all together. And one of the things that I had, and there's been a lot of chatter, and I try not to get into some of this stuff. In fact, I don't jump in on these groups and that because it's just a lot of times it can be very negative. But something that really caught my eye is, of course, he and Rory were kind of neck and neck throughout the event, and a lot of people have come out with some very unkind things towards Rory because of not closing at number one and then sort of abruptly leaving the event. And what I wanted to talk about just very briefly here, if we can, I don't want to dial in on the specifics of that because, there's really nothing to talk about. But I've noticed over the last little while, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, a bit of a trend. And I'll give you an example. Earlier this season at the Waste Management, which is traditionally, which, of course, the Phoenix Open has been a big, early starter in the season. Everybody's out having a good time and that. This year, they had some controversy. There were fights that were breaking out, a lot of drinking going on. There always is at that event. And what I've started to notice, and the reason I mention this, when I was at Pinehurst, I think it was 2 years ago, I went and I played number two, which of course was what was being played this weekend. And I was actually at the short course area, and there were some young guys that were standing there, and they were very rude to some of the attendants that were there. I've started, and maybe, again, you have or have not, and I want to just get your thoughts on this. There seems to be a growing trend, and I'm not seeing it obviously on the ladies, thank God, but I'm seeing it on the men's side where, and I don't know what can be done, if anything, by the tour, but they need to start ratcheting some of this stuff in. You're seeing some of the players on the men's tour getting into wars on social media. You're seeing very unprofessional comments being made towards players, meaning towards Rory. You're seeing events like Waste Management where things are getting out of hand. Do you think that maybe it's PGA Tour steps in or somebody steps in and says, listen, this is supposed to be a game of not only professionals, but also a game of, celebrating, golf and that sort of thing. And it's not a place for juvenile delinquents. I don't know if that's the right approach or not, or if I'm even speaking the right context. But do you understand what I'm getting at? I've just noticed this the last couple of years, and I know it's an environmental thing. We're seeing a lot of this in other areas as well, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But I want to get your thoughts on that because it bothers me to see this kind of stuff going on a regular basis because it's not complementary to our industry. What are your thoughts?
Well, I noticed a bunch of people saying things on the 18th green.
Yes.
While these people were getting ready to putt. And I'm like, shut up.
Right.
Like USA or whatever.
Yeah.
And if if it's always going on, it's okay. But if someone blurts something out, it's a distraction. So if Phoenix, if it's constant noise, you're used to it. But when it's a big blur, then it's like, oh wait, like, oh. And so I heard it and I thought, shut up. And you could see Rory trying to protect. And I thought, oh my God, it's freaking putt. And so yes, it's gotten out of hand, and good for Phoenix to understand that, you've created monsters, and they're going to change rules, and you've opened up the gates, and you've let the kids stay out too late and get too hammered. So, but again, what are you going to do about it? And how much
sorry, go ahead.
How can you control it? I don't know,
I remember going back. There's always been kind of a little bit of unruliness. I remember for years at the Masters, there was always somebody in the background, and you probably maybe remember this, and, they'd be yelling out, "You the man," and, they would yell this out. It's like, and I remember, I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Watson or somebody yelled back and said, "No, you the man," or something, like just to play into it. But, so you had silliness like that. And then, you get other things. And I remember Colin Mockery Colin Montgomery, was getting chastised at one of the events. It might have been actually U.S. Open because he had made a comment, I think, the week before about something, and so they started antagonizing him at an event. And, it got to a point where do you draw the line? I mean, you want fans to have a good time. You want them to be engaging to a point. But when it starts to get unruly, and this is what's happened, and again, you mentioned they are going to make changes, but, they've kind of opened up a can of worms. For years, the Waste Management, Phoenix Open has been, sort of a mob, if you will, but it was always somewhat controlled. Yeah, you had a few drunks and whatever, and they took care of them. But this year, it seemed to escalate. It got into, there were fights, you were seeing things on social media. People were running out into, much like you would see in other sports. I mean, nobody, thank God, was running out naked or anything, but because believe me, it's the last thing you want to see at the Phoenix Open. But they were doing other things that was ramping it up an extra notch. And I've seen this in other areas. And as I said last night, as recent as last night, I saw a number of different group posts where people were talking about certain things and the mob's jumping in and, name calling and all of this kind of stuff. And it's just, it's like, can we not just enjoy the event? Yeah, maybe Rory could have done something different. Maybe you don't agree with what he did, but does it warrant the type of backlash that we're seeing? I mean, do you understand what I'm getting at?
So Rory definitely should have spoken. He did the wrong thing.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, he should have just left. Well, he abruptly left after the event. Yes.
And I don't think he should have done that. He should have spoken. I'm sorry, but he should have spoken, and he should have said, I protected. He should have admitted what he did. Again, you got to stand up to what you did. Sorry, but as mad as you could have been. That's golf, and you got to be a champion, and you got to suck it up, Buttercup. Sorry, but that's what you have to do. And so he should not have left. He would have been a better man. He would have had way more fans if he had done that. Now they're going to give him shit, and it's going to weigh on him, and he knows he did the wrong thing. But that being said, and people are going to nag him about that. So idiots are going to, hey, Rory, what are you doing? I mean, they're going to give him crap. So, but the point being, whatever, you gotta kind of control the crowd. But
and
you're more and more people wanting to watch golf, and it's not just the rich people that go to the country clubs to keep their mouths shut. It's all kinds of people now. Yeah,
during the pandemic, obviously, it opened up the door to another whole demographic of particularly younger folks who had never really been part of golf before, and have a different way that don't really understand some of the traditions. And I agree. I mean, I think you have to open the doors. I think it should be made available for everybody. But I think golf, unlike so many other things, football, baseball, and things like that, where you have a little bit different approach to it, golf has always been sort of, and I hate to use just this word, but a gentleman's game, meaning, and I don't mean just for men, but I mean a gentleman's game in the sense that, you approached it with a certain decorum. And we're seeing it now. And as I was alluding to earlier, I went to Pinehurst a couple of years ago and played, a few of the courses, number 2 being one of them. And as I said, as I was sort of, around the practice area, there's a booth there near their short course. And the gentleman was an older gentleman, well into his 60s, maybe even early 70s. And there was a group of young guys there, and he was trying to collect the bags, and things and get it organized. And they were just very ignorant to him. They had a few drinks, I could tell, and they were just very rude. And to me, that's not good for the game. And I know it's a very small example, but we're seeing more and more of it happening. And fortunately, it's not for, again, thank God, it doesn't seem to be transitioning into the LPGA side of things, but it is on the men's side. And it's to a point where it's a turnoff. for a lot of people. And I'm not trying to sound like a traditionalist, but it's a turnoff for a lot of people to watch this going on. I'm not saying everybody has to be quiet like a church mouse, but at the same time, it's one thing to be, getting in the moment and cheering and things like that, like you said, where it's sort of continual. But when you know that somebody's lining up an important putt and you're blurting things out all of a sudden in their backstroke, I mean, that used to happen to Tiger. People would, he used to get so frustrated because he would be, getting ready to hit his driver off the tee, and all of a sudden there'd be click, 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 and 100 cameras went off just as he was coming down, and he'd stop, and people were amazed at how could he, do that? How was he able to stop? But he just learned to condition himself. But that's a problem, sorry, go ahead.
Well, his father trained him to do that.
Yeah.
His father used to do stuff in the middle of his backswing just to make sure that he could deal with that.
Right.
And
but not
not everybody can do that. Well, you need to learn how to do that if you're going to be a player on the tour, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just really unfortunate. I think it's been very exciting over the last few years to have so many new people coming to the game, and I certainly celebrate that, and I want to encourage that. I want anybody and everybody that's interested in learning to play this game, as particularly for what we do, in our livings. We're not, I'm not playing on tour, and you're not playing for the most part on tour anymore. But we enjoy teaching this game to others and wanting to learn. But at the same time, it's a little bit disturbing for me to see this, sort of younger generation coming up being don't get me wrong, the majority of them are very good and get out there and really grapple to the game and love it and understand and respect some of the traditions. But there is a segment of that population that we're seeing in other areas, not just golf, that just comes out and thinks it's a big, mosh pit, and you can jump in and do whatever you want. And it's just, I just hope the tour figures out a way without, taking everybody off and punishing everybody, finds a way to rein this in, because I think it's going to be ultimately not very good for the game. And I think you're going to see a lot of players that are not, going to be very receptive to this. And also they need to curb the players. I mean, again, we've seen a lot of players over the last couple of years getting in Twitter wars and getting in social media bashing and stuff like that. That's not professional, and they need to be sanctioned for that. That's not okay. That's bad for the game, in my opinion. Final thoughts.
Totally agree.
Well,
totally agree.
We're not going to solve all of the world's problems in an hour show, but we're going to do our darndest. But we will save I had something else planned for discussion, but obviously this, I had to go on a bit of a tangent this morning. I guess like you and like so many others that have been around this game for a while, we're very passionate. We love this game. It's given back so much in our lives, and we've enjoyed it, and, had our share of frustrations over the years, but it's something that we enjoy doing. And when you see people that don't get it and just seem to make a mockery of things, it's very unsettling. And we're seeing this in every walk of life, unfortunately, right now. And it's obviously found a way in golf for the interim. We'll see what happens as time moves forward. But on that note, we want to thank everybody for joining us this morning, and I'll save our discussion for next week, Cindy, and hope everybody will come back and join us. We'll have another great guest for you to start things off, and an interesting discussion, I think, for some of you junior golfers out there and parents that may be tuning in as well. But on that note, on behalf of Cindy Miller, I'm Ted Odorico. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning on the Women of Golf. God bless, and have a great rest of your week. Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's Women of Golf show. Ted and Cindy wish to thank this week's special guests. Remember to join them every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the iGolf Sports Network, or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, TalkStreamLive, and of course Spotify. To get updates on the show, you can follow the Women of Golf's Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Women of Golf. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.